It is my pleasure to welcome to the show Congressman August Pfluger of Texas. He serves on the Energy and Commerce Committee as well as the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman Pfluger, thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
The House is expected to vote on Wednesday, today, on a bill that's designed to prevent foreign adversary controlled applications from operating within the United States. Some people are calling this bill that Congress is going to vote on the TikTok bill because it does directly affect the social media platform TikTok. Now, just to give a little background, TikTok's parent company is called ByteDance, and ByteDance is headquartered in Beijing and is subject to Chinese law that requires companies to make data available to the Chinese Communist Party. So now there is a bipartisan bill in Congress called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. The bill gives TikTok a choice. Lay out what is in this bill and the choice that it gives to TikTok.
Well, first off, this is such an important topic, and I'm proud of the China Select Committee, which is a bipartisan committee led by Mike Gallagher and others that have looked at these issues. The Homeland Security Committee, which I'm on, has looked at how we protect our country from the Chinese Communist Party and other nefarious actors. And as it relates to the Energy and Commerce Committee, now we have this bill, we've marked it up, and it really does lay out a choice. The platform should not be in jeopardy. This should be an easy choice for TikTok, which is a subsidiary of ByteDance, which is closely linked and controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And you can see right there that the dangers that lay with a company that is beholden to a government that is demonstrating on a daily basis their willingness to undermine American interest, both at home and abroad, not just with the data, not just with this particular platform, but in many different areas. So the choice is pretty clear for TikTok that they either divest from their parent company, ByteDance, which is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, or they won't be allowed in the United States. And I hope, and there's a lot of people, I know that this is going to be maybe misunderstood, or there's a lot of questions on this. This is not about the content that is being posted on TikTok. It's a much bigger picture than that. It's about the conduct of the company that controls TikTok, that makes the decisions, that has a narrative, that is able to use Chinese Communist Party propaganda through the platform if they so choose. And so what my hope is that the users of TikTok will push back and they will say, why don't you sell it to a good company in a friendly country? That is what this bill says, not just for TikTok, but for other entities that are related either to Russia, to China, to Iran, or obviously to China.
This is a bill that's being closely watched by many of Americans. There's about over 100 million Americans that use TikTok on a pretty regular basis here in America. And the question, though, is what are the chief concerns related to security? Why is TikTok a threat to American interests and our national security?
It's a great question. Again, it's not the content that people are posting, citing First Amendment reasons, but it is the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has the ability to push a narrative, to use people's data, to surveil in a way. When we had Shou Chu, the CEO of TikTok, in front of our committee, I asked him a particular question. I said, is it possible for the Chinese government, for the Chinese Communist Party, to formulate a message and for that message to be pushed into TikTok to users in any way, shape, or form that they choose? And he answered yes. And it was already established in that hearing that they shared that ByteDance and their subsidiary companies, both the Chinese version of TikTok and TikTok itself, shared different personnel, different executives. And so when you think about the security risk, it's not just our data. Yes, knowing Americans' data, being able to use American servicemen and women's data against them or for whatever purpose they want, that is very concerning. But also the fact that TikTok can heat or cool a certain issue. They can do that when it comes to industries they like or industries they don't like. Let's think about trade with the Chinese Party, with the Chinese Communist Party. If they don't like a certain country's trade, well, they can heat or cool that message and either draw criticism to it or draw support to it in a way that they want. And so when you're linked to a country that you know wants to undermine you, that you know is playing a long game, then you have to look at this through the lens of national security. And we're obviously very concerned about a wide variety of issues, some that I just mentioned.
What could the Chinese Communist Party do with the data that TikTok collects and that ByteDance is required to provide to the CCP if asked?
I think at a micro level, they can use individuals' data against them in any different way. But at a macro level, um, I think the sky is the limit. And this was brought up in our committee hearing. And let me make the point about this, that everyone is concerned about privacy. And we do intend to have a privacy bill that covers, the wide variety, the wide range of social media platforms and throughout the internet. But on this particular bill, we had bipartisan support, and I've never seen in the 4 years that I've been here Democrats and Republicans come together with an understanding that that data could be leveraged and used in a national security way to the detriment of the United States and of our interests. And those topics were brought up.
So critical. How is TikTok in the US different from TikTok in China?
It's a great question. And TikTok in China is not controlled by TikTok. It's controlled by another company, but still with the ByteDance umbrella. But they censor a lot of the content there. We asked Shochu these questions as well. Do your kids see the same things that American kids are seeing or that European kids are seeing? And he said no. And that's because the Chinese Communist Party censors much of the data. There are no First Amendment rights inside China with the control of the Chinese Communist Party. And so I think that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. And let me make this point, that on the day we had this bill, we marked it up last week, that we received hundreds of phone calls. TikTok put a statement on the login page when kids were logging in on that day. They had to click a link, they had to input their zip code, and that zip code linked them directly to offices like mine. They called the phone number. We had multiple kids call. I mean, hundreds of phone calls on that day, but multiple kids called and said, if I can't have TikTok, I'm going to kill myself. Think about the control that the Chinese Communist Party asserted on kids in the United States. If they can do that, again, the sky is the limit on the nefarious acts that they could use in a national security way to undermine the interest of the U.S.
That's really shocking to hear you say that you had TikTok users, young people, teenagers calling your office and saying, if TikTok is banned in the US, I'll kill myself.
That is the ability of this company to really shape the message and shape a narrative and use complete falsehoods and lies to influence our young people. And that is exhibit A about why we're worried about this particular this issue.
Will this bill affect other social media platforms, or could it in the future besides TikTok?
It will not affect any American platforms. But if you are a platform and you're controlled by an adversarial nation, and I mentioned those being Iran and Russia, North Korea, and obviously China, then yes, you have a choice. You either divest and you make sure that that data is protected and that a foreign adversarial country does not have control over it, but a friendly country with a friendly company has control over it. And that's listed pretty specifically in the bill. But in this case, it's only talking about those that are controlled like ByteDance by the Chinese Communist Party.
Congressman, I know you have to run quickly. This bill is expected to pass in the House. What do we expect to see in the Senate?
I think the Senate is working on a very similar version. I'll be interested to see if they have the same bipartisan support. I think they will. Where they tweak it, how they make sure we protect First Amendment rights and that content is not the topic, but conduct is, I think we'll have a lot of overlapping interests there. So remains to be seen, but I do believe that the national security message and concerns will continue to win out here.
Congressman Pfluger, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.